Hello and welcome everyone. This is PDR Patnaik and I'll be the tutor for this course called Advanced Robotics using Arduino. So to be more specific with this course is basically divided into 4 modules. So the first module will be focusing on understanding the Arduino microcontroller, understanding the Arduino board and the IC pinouts. Followed by which I will be demonstrating you the use of integrated development environment that is generally used for programming Arduino. We will be covering a couple of programs where you will be getting familiar with the kind of IDE that is generally used for programming these kinds of boards. And along with this, you will also be having a detailed overview of what are the basic uses and what are the features that can be extracted out of this kind of microcontroller boards. So altogether you will be also building some basic electronic circuits with the help of prototyping breadboard, and we will be trying to interface and build a couple of small circuits which will be helping you in understanding the practical setup that we will be building in our further modules. Module 2 focuses on the exact robot assembly and understanding how to build our own Arduino board, where it is going to be a composition of the bare minimum components that are usually available on an Arduino pre-built board. So later on we will be building this board with the help of a PCB designing software in module 3, and then later on we would be testing of a board with the help of a simple blink example, and we will also be interfacing a couple of sensors like IR sensors, piezo buzzers, LEDs, push buttons, and a lot of other stuff that would be beneficial for us to build a robot. And we will also try to understand the basic excitation that we usually need to provide to each of the motors which form the robot body, and also we will understand what is going to be the exact battery requirements, like depending upon the application, whether you are interested in building a white line black line tracer, or it would be an obstacle avoider, or it would be any payload carrying robot. So depending upon your application, we would be identifying the maneuvering process that you need to adopt depending upon the task that your robot needs to perform. So later to which we will also be using Eagle PCB designing software, and most probably the trial version of Eagle would be sufficient enough to build the small PCB, and we will also be going through the details of how to build a PCB Gerber file, where in case if you are interested in building a professional grade PCB, then probably you need to provide the Gerber files to the PCB manufacturer. So you would be getting familiar with the in-depth knowledge of what is a PCB, what is going to be the routing grid, and how to lay down the tracks, what is the difference between layout and the board files. So all these aspects would be dealt in much deeper perspective by considering the design of an Atmega 168 or a 328 based microcontroller board, which we will be using for building the bare bone or the bare minimum of an Arduino board, where we would be using the most essential components like the crystal oscillator, selection of components, and among a variety of components, which component must be utilized for building a PCB and what is the importance of each of these components. So all this stuff would be covered in module number 3, and again at the end we would be building this particular board and for testing with the help of a blink example. So basically a blink example is like a hello world program whenever you're learning a new programming language. So just in a similar analogy, every time we build a new thing in electronics, we just try to connect an LED to that one and try to blink it, so that if it blinks, you would be assured that the hardware that you have built is pretty much working fine. And the last module would be focused on building and assembling the robot all together, whatever we have been building so far in the 3 modules. And this is where we would be programming our microcontroller board by using an external SPI USB ASP programmer. I will be providing you all the details, like what are the various variety of boards that are available online, and what kind of board would be provided to you, and in case if a manual is missing, how to get familiar with that one, how to search for the manual. So all this stuff would be dealt in the upcoming videos, so just stay tuned for this one. So finally, what you have is a robot that would be tracing a black line, and along with this you would be gaining a lot of knowledge regarding what are basic robots and what is the maneuvering process, how to design the PCB. So this course in itself is a unique course where you would be building everything from scratch except the programmer. So this is going to definitely give you an in-depth knowledge. And as far as the prerequisites of this particular course is concerned, as long as you are familiar with the basics of electronics, like what are positive and negative terminals of a electronic power supply, and if you have at least a knowledge, or if you could go through the definitions of what is a microcontroller and what is an Arduino. So some simple definitions would definitely help you in understanding this course in a much deeper depth. So rest of the parts, like what is a robot and how do you need to get started with, from where do you download all the softwares, all these things are provided in a proper document, and also those are dealt and explained as and when I felt necessary. So I hope you enjoy this video course till the end, and I hope if you have any sorts of doubts, you would be able to clear it by watching these videos. So that's all for this introductory video on the course overview, and I hope all of you would be enjoying this course, and all the best for it.